Hello everyone, Beaches A free to here back with another How to Play. Today we're gonna how to play this game, Reforest. Plants of the Pacific Northwest Coast from Firestarter Games. This is the third game I got from them on Kickstarter recently. It says it's a game of strategic forced succession by Sebastian Bernard Wong. He designed it. Janine von Fraum did the artwork, but she's not the only one because many of the cards, all the cards will tell you right on them who designed them. This is S. Holden, Luis Lunzer. There's all sorts of different artists, which is great which is really cool because they all look like they belong in this deck and they're all different artists, so they did a great job. In the game, you get 91 of these plant cards. You get 10 of these animal cards. As I mentioned, this game is for 1 to 4 players. Ages 14 up, takes about 30 to 60 minutes. I'd say the age is reasonable. Some people like to compare this to Wingspan, so if you like Wingspan, you might like this one. You should like it. A game comes with, as I said, the 91 plant cards. You're never going to use all of them, because even if you play with 4 players, you're only going to use 90. You're going to have one that you're going to discard. And you're going to discard, you're going to use just a certain amount depending on the player counts. And you're also going to set up these visitors, which is the animals, which we'll get to, and you're going to tuck a certain number of cards underneath them. These are the visitors. They have all sorts of different animals. There's 10. You're going to use 3, and they're all worth 5 points. And to get them, at the end of the round, you have to achieve whatever it says here. This is most fruiting plants. This one is most evergreens. This one is most plants in the top elevation. This is most cone plants. This is most plants in the understory, the bottom row. This is most flowers in the canopy, which is going to be a top one. This is most flowers, most sun intolerant plants, or sun tolerant plants. Most stored energy, which we'll get to, and most plants in general. So you can shuffle these up. And I'll set them aside for a moment. The cards, they all have a beautiful work. And as I mentioned as well, you get a nice reference card that tells you what you can do in the turn. Basically, one of 2 things. Either you can gather, which is where you draw 2 cards, either from the nursery or the draw deck, or a combination of 2. The other thing you can do is you can play a plant by paying its plant's nutrient cost to add it to your region. You can pay in 1 or 2 ways. You can pay either by discarding X amount of cards. If you need to pay 1, you discard 1 card. If it's free, you discard 3 cards. Or you can pay using stored energy, which is cards that you're going to tuck underneath other cards, which I'll get to. You do have a hand limit of 7 cards. There's no limit to how many cards you can play and tuck. The only kind of limit is that the only restriction, I'll put these cards aside because we're only going to use these ones. I got 50 cards here for a 2-player game. The only restriction is when you play cards, you're going to be playing them into 3 rows like this, kind of like a tree, like a Christmas tree, or like a mountain. So you're going to have 3 on the bottom, 2, and then 1. And then you're going to be able to tuck other cards. You're going to be able to play other cards on top, and there's no limit to how many you can play on top. There are rules for placing them, which I'll get to. You also get a little score reference thing, which don't write on it, use a piece of paper or something, or use their website. Scan this, go to the website, keep track of your score there, and compare it to other players. So that's really cool. There's also a little expansion that came with it, with event modules that you can throw in there that have different types of weather conditions. We're not going to use that. It's a little expansion. I haven't even tried it. Oh, they're actually double-sided. That's kind of cool. I've heard that, not to use it, but I haven't tried it. I think it might be okay, but I haven't tried it. So what you're going to do to set up is you can shuffle up these cards. You're going to separate however many you need. Again, it's 90 cards for 4-player game, 70 for a 3-player game, 50 for a 2-player game, and 30 if you're doing solo. And then, what you're going to do is you will deal 5 cards to each player. For your hand, remember we have a hand limit of 7. Then you're going to deal out 3 cards into the nursery and leave the remainder as a draw deck. So we'll have 1, 2, 3. And I'll show you the cards momentarily. I'm going to drop this down a little bit actually. You're also going to have to set up the visitors. What you're going to do is you're going to draw 3 visitors. So we got the Douglas squirrel, which requires plants that have cones. We have the hoary marmot, which requires most plants in the top, the canopy, and the Roosevelt elk, which requires the most evergreens. We'll put those there. We're going to be playing 3 rounds. Once we get to that last round, that's the end of the game. We can leave these cards here because there is at least one card that I've seen that can get you another animal to be played in here as extra points. Now the visitors, you will score at the end of a round. They're each worth 5 points. And this is how you're going to get them if you have the most of that, or whatever it says. On the bottom you see the rules for solitaire. This is the first round, second round, and third. In this case, since it's third round, you'd have to get 7 of those. And there's a little flavor text on the bottom as well. For these cards, a number of things to know. Obviously, there's their names on there. This is the points you're going to get from playing them. And even if you cover them up, you're going to get those points. Here is the cost to play it. 1, 2, 4, 3 cards. And you would just discard, if I play this one, I'd have to discard 2 cards. On the bottom here, it tells you what the plant is. It's a fruiting plant and a flowering plant, and this is that it is moist and dry. And there's reference on this side for all the symbols. So we got dry soil tolerance, moist soil tolerance, wet soil tolerance, flowering, fruiting, evergreen, cone bearing, high, mid, and low elevation, shade tolerant, and shade intolerant. And then the nutrient cost and the value. They also indicate the value on the bottom because when you cover them up, you're just going to see this bottom. These symbols are for the purposes of getting the visitors at the end of the round. And then the cards have all sorts of different little rules. These white ones are when you play it, you'll do this action. The pink ones are reactions. So whenever you grow one that has a flower in an adjacent space, you get to draw an extra card. This one is a scoring condition. If it's in the canopy, it's going to give you 3 points. And the green is passive. It says at the start of your turn, you may return 1 adjacent stored energy to your hand. If you do so, also draw a card. So you got those ones. There's a couple more. There's this brown color, which is when covered. So when you cover this one, it's going to allow you to move this plant to an empty space, as long as it is within these conditions. And cement in the cards, there's also an elevation here, so this says it can be played in the bottom or the low or mid elevation. If the top one is covered, you can also play it in the top one. And this is the sun tolerance or intolerance. This means it's okay with some shade if it's half filled in. But if it's like this one requires full sun. And if you cover it, you're going to lose that card. Now, it's going to be hard to cover that one because it's a 50-meter card. And you can only play cards on top of other cards if it is higher. So find one that's higher than that one. It's going to be a little bit tricky. And there's also the blue one, which is after gathering. So this one, if you have it on played in front of you after gathering, you can draw a card from the deck. And that's more or less what you need to know. Then, of course, there is the heights in metric, because that's the way to go. And it's also Canadian designer. And we Canadians use the metric system because it is the best system. The non-American system. Anyway. So, what you're going to do on your turn, again, as I mentioned, is 2 things. Either A, You can play a card by paying its cost and putting that in the discard pile, or you can gather 2 cards, taking 2 from here, or 1 from here and 1 from here, or 2 from here. Now, there is one more setup thing I forgot, and that is we got to put some of these cards underneath these first 2 visitors. And the amount, again, is shown on here, so if it's 4 players, it's going to be 12 cards, 3 is 10, Salter is 6, and we're doing 8. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 8 cards. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to stack these underneath here. And the reason for that is because at the end of the round, we're going to play this round until we go through all these cards. Once this deck is depleted, we stop. We take all of these cards, the cards in the discard pile, and these cards, shuffle them up, and we get into the draw pile. And then after the second round, we're going to do the same thing. And then once we get to the third round, that's it. There's no more. That's the end of the game. So what you're going to do again, you can play a card or you can do something else. So I'm going to play, let's say I put down this one, and it says when played, draw 2 cards for each mountain covering your region, including this card. So I get to draw 2 cards as a bonus. So I have to pay 1. I'm going to pay this 4 because I'm not going to use it right now. And I get to draw 2 cards. And when it says draw, you have to draw, not take from the nursery. Then my opponent's going to go. He's going to do the same thing. Then it comes back to me. And so maybe I decide to cover this card up for some reason. So again, let's just say, you know, I had some cards here that I played. And there's different actions. This one says when played, draw a card. If this is in the mid elevation, draw 2. And if it's in the top elevation, draw 1. So I 1 card if it's in the mid elevation, 2 if it's in the top, but it's in the bottom, so it's not going to be giving anything. Actually, I can't even play this one because it's mid or top, so I screwed up there. My apologies. You probably caught that. But anyway, what I can't do is I can't play this one here. So then, of course, my opponent card comes back to me. Maybe I draw a couple of cards. We refill the market afterwards. Then maybe I go. Maybe I play some more cards. Now, if I decide to cover up this one, we'll say this one. And this one says when covered, you can move this plant to an empty space, which is kind of cool. But I'm going to cover this one up, and you cover it up like this. It doesn't have a one covered action, so it does nothing. But since this one has a full sun, it will not survive in the shade. It's dead. So I'm going to turn it face down, and now it becomes stored energy. You need stored energy sometimes for getting a visitor. Sometimes there's one card that's like most stored energy, and you win that visitor. But outside of that, what you can do with the stored energy is worth 1 point at the end of the game for every one that you have. Or you can use it to pay for playing a card. So if I want to play this card, maybe over here, what you can do, I can pay with this one and one from my hand. So maybe I pay with those two. And then again, it goes back and forth. Maybe I collected a few more cards. My opponent's doing his. We're going back and forth, taking turns. And it comes back to my turn. Maybe I decide to play another one. Maybe I put this one. And again, it says when covered, you can move this to an empty space. So I can, and I will. I can move it down here because it can go there. And you just keep doing this. Eventually, you're going to have lots of things. This one can go up here. This one can go anywhere. So this one can go in any elevation. Some can only go on the bottom. Some can go in the bottom middle. Some can go on the top or the middle. And, you know, let me just add some cards again. When you play a card on top of another one, the height has to be bigger. It's going to grow over it. It's not. You can't put a 750 centimeter one on top of a 3-meter one. But this one I can put on top of this one. It actually says when played, look at the top 5 cards of the deck, keep one and return others in any order. So I could do that. But let's just say, for the sake of an argument, that I put this one, the other one doesn't go there. I can put this one down here, and then I can play this one up here, and then maybe I'll play this one here. Let's just say that's the end of the first round. We've gone through this deck. We each have some cards. We have a discard, and they're going to have some cards in their array. So then what we're going to do is we're going to look at this. It says this squirrel is going to visit whoever has the most of these cone trees, the cone bearing trees. And let's see, I have actually a few. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say I am, and I'm looking at these symbols down here. Actually, I don't have. My bad. Those are all fruit. I actually don't have one cone bearing one, unfortunately. That's hilarious and embarrassing. Let's just say I had this one here, which does have the cone thing, and let's say I'm the only one that has. I would get this visitor. We take these cards, the remaining cards in the nursery, and the discard, shuffle it up, create a new draw pile, and refill the nursery. And then, once you go through a couple more rounds, you will score up all your points. I got 4, 4, 2, 3, 2, and 5. And another 5 right now. And you would add those up. Any cards that have scoring condition, like this one says, if it's at the corner of your region, which it is, it's worth 2 points. There's another one that if it's on the top, it's worth like 3 points. And so you add all that up. Every card you have left in your hand, every 2 cards you have left in your hand is going to be worth 1 point as well. And if you have stored energy, if I had some cards stored underneath here, those are going to be worth 1 point each. If we had that, that'd be worth 2 points. And you also get an elevation bonus. That says you're going to count the number of plants in a small stack of each elevation row, and you score 2 points for each of those cards. So, not quite sure about that one. But I guess you just count up the plants. Like this one we just have, I guess there's some there, there's some here, I haven't quite figured out that elevation bonus. Unfortunately. Like, it doesn't really explain it very well. I guess it's just plant cards, so I would get 2, 4, I would say. This one, 2, 4, and this one also 2, because I only have 1 in this stack. I believe that's how it works. Anyways, that is Reforest. It's a really cool game. It's designed to be travel friendly. It's just a small box of cards and environmentally friendly. It's just, there was no cellophane or anything like that. It's just some cards. You can recycle them when you're done. I would, of course, recommend sleeving them to let them last as long as possible. But yeah, it's a nice little game. Comment, like, subscribe, what you think. Hopefully that makes sense. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.